Hello, Pastor Stuart here with another midweek Bible study video. We are almost finished with our study of the book of Proverbs. We've got probably one more week left. I think next week we'll kind of do like a wrap-up week. We'll hit a lot of different verses that talk about wisdom versus foolishness. So this will probably be our second to last lesson as we've read a lot of different verses around the book of Proverbs. And if you missed any of the previous lessons, that's okay. You can keep watching this one because you won't be behind. Since Proverbs covers a lot of different topics, each week we've covered a different topic and looked at different verses in Proverbs that speak to that topic. So keep watching this one, and if you missed any, you can go back and watch those afterwards, and we'll probably finish our read through of different Proverbs verses next week. Today, our topic is the company we keep. Proverbs reminds us how important that is, to be mindful of the company that we keep and how much of an influence it has on our lives, because we do not exist solely by ourselves as hermits completely in the world. No, we are a part of groups and communities and families and workplaces and churches, all kinds of things. And each of those groups has an effect on us. We can help shape them, and they shape us for better and for worse. And that's the key. Are we letting them shape us for the better or for the worse? Now, we often hear the term peer pressure and just think about it as like a teenage problem. Like that's something that teenagers have to be mindful of. And it's true, they do. But it is definitely not just teenagers. Adults also are influenced by the pressure and the behaviors from the peers that we are around as well. It's very real. And that kind of pressure, that kind of influence from our peers can be good and helpful, or it can be bad and harmful. Either way, it definitely has an effect on us. So when we associate with people who are wise, then we become a little wiser. But when our companions are more towards the foolish end of the spectrum, then we start to act more like them. And as our central verse tonight points out, we can expect a little more trouble in our lives because of our behavior and the decisions that we then make. So here's our central verse. It is Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20, and then we'll read two more verses that connect to it. So here's Proverbs 13:20. Those who walk with the wise grow wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. Okay, so over the last few weeks, we've read a lot of different Proverbs verses that have like a more personal focus on what we do, what we say, how we act, what we think, etc. But this verse reminds us that if we do really want to be wiser, to grow on the inside, not just grow on the outside, then we really need to be aware of who we spend time with and who we listen to, who has an effect on us. What's the kids song, like the old-timey church kids song, be careful little ears what you hear? Very true. This verse reminds us that it is an important practice of becoming more mature to make it a point and hang around with people who help you grow. Listen and seek out those voices and souls and people and groups and folks who are wise themselves, or they are also trying to grow too, just like you are. So you can grow and help each other on the path. So that's an important part of us becoming more mature, is noticing and being aware of who we spend time with, who we listen to, Find those people and voices who are wise already or who are also working on becoming wise. And also avoid those who are foolish and selfish, because we don't want to let that make our lives suffer harm, as our verse said. So, making wise choices about who we listen to improves our lives. But when we spend time with and we listen to people who are misguided, then they will rub off on us and we will bring trouble onto ourselves, because we will become more misguided and foolish too. That explains the verse in Proverbs 14:7. Here's what it says: Stay away from a foolish man, for you will not find knowledge on his lips. That's like what the second part of our key verse tonight said. So, mature people encourage you to grow, whereas immature people cause you to go the other way, like to regress as you act maybe a little more childish or petulant or just foolish. So Proverbs 14:7 says, stay away from those kind of people. You will not find knowledge on their lips. So don't even listen to, if there's no knowledge on their lips, don't listen to what's coming out of their lips. Because like 13:20 said, you will suffer harm if you do. So avoid people like that, and instead seek out people like from Proverbs 27:17, which says, 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. That's the same kind of idea, that other people have an effect on us and vice versa. It can be a good effect or it can be a bad effect. So think about it. Go ahead and think about it now ahead of time. Do you want to become sharper as a person in mind and in spirit? Or do you want to let yourself become more foolish? That's kind of the choice that we have here. If you want to grow sharper, then watch out who you listen to. You'd think that it would be easy to distinguish between those two kinds of people, like wise, sharp, foolish, and harmful. But apparently it's not as easy as we might think it is, because a lot of folks can get sucked in and led down a wrong path by foolish people, even though there's no knowledge on their lips. Folks can still get kind of sucked down. And we might think about that a little more next week. I think there's a temptation element there, that something about what their lips are saying, even though there's no knowledge on it, and even though it leads you down a harmful path, they can spin it in a way that sounds tempting, that kind of taps into the other topics we've talked about the last few weeks, like greed, or sort of like power, or it like fuels your anger or your fear or something like that. And they kind of, those like sometimes foolish people can really tap into the more childish or immature feelings that we have, and it kind of sucks us back. It's easier to fall back down than it is to climb up. You know what I mean? Like if you ever do any hiking in the mountains here, it's way too easy to fall and slide back down than it is to do the real effort and the work of hiking up. So maybe that's why, even though we would think it'd be easier to distinguish between the company that we keep, the words of the foolish can just suck us down so easily, because it just like it pulls us back to kind of our childish roots, perhaps. And also what's hard to kind of distinguish is that you don't always know from the outside, like from the start. You might not be able to tell kind of like what's really going on inside of a person or inside of a group. For example, let's say someone is hired by a company or marries into a family or joins a church, And then not too long after, they start acting kind of like everybody else does in that group or in that system, whatever it was they've joined, almost like that new person has been there for years, like they kind of picked up on the routine, on the way things are done there. And that can be positive or it can be negative depending on whatever system or group it is and how dysfunctional they might be or how healthy they might be. Hopefully, anybody who joins our church can get that kind of good support, that kind of good encouragement, the iron sharpening iron. And we are there to help each other walk the mile and bear the load. So hopefully we can be a good influence when someone joins our church. But every group of people, no matter what the group is, they just kind of have a certain way that they act or operate or make decisions or go about life, like their routine. So when a new person joins, then that new person will kind of pick up the pattern or fall into the pattern as if they were a long-time regular and had been there forever. And it's sometimes it can be really astounding how they'll just kind of pick up like the subconscious kind of way of acting and making decisions and stuff. That's why the Proverbs today that we're reading are so important. We really are affected by the company that we keep. Let me give you another example. Our oldest son, he'd been 13, just turned 14, a teenager, and he enjoys playing video games online with his friends from school. So a very normal activity for kids these days. We know all the kids that he plays with. They're normal kids. We know who they are. They're in school together, and then when they're home, they like playing games together virtually, which has helped during the pandemic that they can still play virtually online the fun games they like together. So he's got like a group of dudes, and he'll go down the basement and he'll just play for a few hours with his friends from school, his other teenage dudes. And my wife and I noticed that the more often he spends extended time just in that kind of dude cave, that kind of dude bro lifestyle of talking and being with the rest of his teenage friends, when he comes back upstairs and interacts with us, the more teenagery he is, like teenagery to the extreme. And it is so annoying, just remarkably annoying. Think of bad attitudes a teenager can have, and it's that like all the way, just 100%. We get it, it happens. But if there's days where like his friends can't play or he can't play or we're busy, we're on vacation or the power's out or we're visiting other folks or out and about in the world, and he's not having an extended period of time with his other dude bros, and he has other influences like us in the family or other good people, it's remarkable. He is a totally different person. We'll look around and go, who is this nice, kind young man who has invaded our family and looks like our son, the teenager? It is welcome. Sure, we love it. It feels fleeting, like, oh, we have to strike while the iron is hot. He's in a good mood right now. Let's enjoy it. Let's make the most of it. Because if he goes downstairs and plays too long with his other very normal friends from school, then gosh, he just turns into that extreme teenage dude bro attitude. And I don't know how many more years do we have? Like 5 more years of that. So just remarkable that kind of same person, our son, whom we love, whom we are well pleased. Just the company that he keeps on any given day can really affect his attitude and can really swing it one way to the other. And we can watch that happen in real time. Like, this is very true, folks. This is like, these verses are totally true. Here's another good example. Last example of the night for these true verses. We can think about the group AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and why they were founded in the first place. They were founded in 1935 by 2 men who were struggling with alcoholism. And as it always is, it's very hard to get under control when you suffer from alcoholism. And it was really plaguing them. And they realized that when they tried to beat it alone, it was a lot harder than when they got together and supported each other and let each other be a good influence and encouragement to them. So they started meeting together, encouraging each other with great results, and were really doing well. So they started meetings with other people who also suffered from alcoholism to increase that kind of support, increase the good influence, the spread around that good influence. And then I guess time went on. As you know, more groups started because they were so helpful. And now there are hundreds of thousands of AA groups with millions of people who participate in hundreds of countries all over the world because they are designed to be a group of people that helps each other improve. That's the point of the group, to share and be honest and open and to help each other walk the difficult road of recovery. So that is just a great example of how he who walks with the wise grows wise. That if you can spend your time walking with other people who are on the same path as you and who are trying to walk up, you know what I mean? Like trying to make progress up that mountain of life and growth and maturity, then you really will be blessed. And there are now, of course, thank goodness, tons of support groups out there for virtually every condition that people struggle with, different kinds of addictions, health concerns like cancer or trauma, diabetes, anger management, anorexia, abuse, anything that people struggle with. You can and you should find a group that helps be a good influence of support on you. Groups like those, whether they know it or not, they recognize the wisdom of these proverbs. The people we associate with really do influence us, whether positively or negatively. So be mindful of that this week. Pay attention to what you're listening to, the people you're listening to, whether they are celebrities or news sources or influencers, as like people on YouTube and Instagram are called these days. They're called influencers because they have a big influence. So be mindful of the people you're listening to, you're spending time with, and are they helping you grow? Are they helping you walk further along, or are they kind of pulling you back down and maybe being more of a bad influence so that you might be a little more misguided and suffer some harm, like our proverb warned us to. So that is your challenge and your homework assignment this week, to be mindful of the people and the voices that you hear and you spend time with. Okay, next week we will conclude our study of Proverbs. It will be a big, good wrap-up lesson next week. We'll throw a lot of other kind of good verses out there and have some good kind of take-home reminders of what the whole book of Proverbs has been teaching us over the last few weeks. Thanks so much, and I'll see you then. Have a good week. Bye-bye.